Hey everybody, today I wanted to come on and elaborate on a post that I put on earlier on Instagram and Facebook about how your job is one stream of income. And so I know, when it comes to being Monday, a lot of people are frustrated that they have to go back to their jobs, but I wanted to offer a different perspective. Hopefully it helps you appreciate your job a little bit more and to see it differently so that way you're not as frustrated. And so I wanted to offer that perspective through video. So today I'm going to be talking about why your job is necessary. Today I'm going to be talking about why your job is necessary. And so if you find any of this helpful, I would greatly appreciate it if you share it. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you get an alert or a notification each time I go live. Now, if you're new to me and don't know who I am, my name is Janae. I'm a financial consultant and I help young professionals and leaders who want to learn more about how to invest. And I do that through my signature 90-day program, the $1 Million Roadmap. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can go to my website at janaeam.com, and I have a nice free download that you can get on 5 strategies that you can use to build generational wealth. All right, so today's topic, why your job is necessary. I remember when this was about 4 years ago, I was about 25, and I was working in corporate America. It was my first job out of college, and I got to a point where even though I worked for a great company and I made great money, I had this feeling that I was not very fulfilled with what I was doing, even though I was good at it. And there was a lot of growth potential there. I just kind of felt stuck and like I was trying to figure it out all over again. And so I began to get frustrated by the job because I did not want to be there. And so if that's you, I want to again, help share another perspective to help you understand why your job is necessary. And it's outside of the obvious of it allows you to be able to pay your bills. And so I hope that through what I share today, it opens up your mind a little bit more and gets you to thinking a different way, so that way you can actually leverage the job that you have to eventually work yourself out of a job. And as I go into depth with the content today, you'll understand more about what I mean by that. So the first thing that your job can help you do is create a cheaper life. The first thing that your job can help you do, which is why it's necessary, is it can help you create a cheaper life. Now, what I did not realize back then that I realize now is that I was in a great position where I literally only had 2 bills to pay. So I lived downtown. So this was back when when I first moved out of my mom's house. I got an apartment on my own, and it was literally all inclusive. And I only paid an electric bill outside of my rent. So included in my rent was literally all of my utilities except for electric. And so I only had 2 bills to pay. And it was fairly inexpensive, and I was making really great money. And I did work to aggressively pay down my car note at the time. Hey, Charlene. I did work to pay down my car note at the time. But if I knew then what I know now, I would have also been aggressively paying down my student loans, because they could have been paid off by the time I moved into my house. And I would have been paying down my student loans while I was saving towards buying a house. And what that would have done was, when I had moved into my house, that meant that the only bill, the only debt that I really had to pay outside of my normal living expenses was my mortgage. And so since that was the only bill, I could have added more money to paying down my mortgage faster, because at the end of the day, retirement is not so much about how old you are, but when you have enough money where you don't have to work. And so during retirement, the goal is to try to have as few expenses as possible, so that way your money will last a lot longer and you can use it to do the things you actually want to do. And so if you start that process now while you're in your 20s or in your early 30s, then that's less money that you need to live off of, which means that the money you're not paying to your creditors or to bill collectors, you can use to save that and invest that towards retirement, or you can use it to, go on vacation or things like that. But the less money that you're paying someone else, the more money you can be paying yourself or paying for something that you actually want to do. So in a way, it's kind of paying yourself because you're treating yourself. But the goal is to try and get as few expenses as possible. And so if you start that process now, then you set yourself up pretty nicely to have more money available to do with whatever you want to do with it later on. The second thing, and another thing is, I wanted to mention, most people, they can't afford to leave their jobs because your life costs too much. And so what I mean by that is, it's kind of we get caught up in that psychology of, because we make more money, we can upgrade our lifestyle. And so by upgrading your lifestyle, you eventually have to pay more money because your expenses will increase. And so that's less money that you have to save and to invest, because you have to pay this money to help afford the lifestyle that you have. And so when you get stuck in a situation where you have a lot of bills and your income is just enough to meet all the bills that you have, and this is whether, you're making 50,000 or, over six figures, if the money that you make is, enough to cover the lifestyle that you have now, what happens if you don't have income coming from multiple places and, you get laid off or you end up having to leave your job? What happens to your lifestyle then? And it's so, because people don't think like that, you sometimes find people who get caught up in those types of situations and they end up having to go through bankruptcy because their lifestyle is too expensive. Now, there's nothing wrong with having an expensive lifestyle, but if you're depending solely on one stream of income, which is your job, to finance that, that's pretty dangerous, because who's to say that you'll have the same job tomorrow? And so those are the things you want to think about. Now, if you do have income streaming in from multiple places and those places are pretty stable where it can finance that lifestyle that you want to have, as long as you're saving and investing at a rate that supports the goals that you have and it's enough to finance those goals, then you can do whatever you want with the extra money that you have. But you need to take care of the future as well as now, and you need to be able to do that with the money that you actually have right now. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is what I talked about on Instagram, is that whether you realize it or not, the job that you have can set you up for a better life. And what I mean by that is it can help you create additional streams of income. So as an example, I took money from my job and I used that to start a website and get different subscriptions that I need for email services, and to get graphics done, and to use automated schedulers so people can schedule time on my calendar. I use money from my job to help with starting my coaching business at the time, which transitioned to more consulting, but I used the money from my job to be able to do that. And so if I hadn't had a job, all I would have had to rely on is my savings, and that money eventually runs out. But when you have a job, because that money's coming in consistently, you can set your life up in such a way where you take a portion of the money that you're getting from your job and you can use that to start a new business, or to invest in your professional development or your personal development, so that way you can monetize some of the skills and the talents that you have, so that way you can start generating more income. And so if you look at it that way, then your responsibility, honestly, is to be able to take the money that you have and figure out how can you grow it to make it more. And so I wanted to post this when I posted when I made the post on Instagram, but it's likened to the Bible story where it's talking about the man with the talents. One got one got 5 or 2, and one got 10. Just go with me on those numbers. I don't remember them exactly, but basically what happened was you had 2 that doubled the amount of talents that they had. One came back with 10, I believe. One came back with, I think it was 4. It was either 4 or 6. And then the one who had 1 talent ended up burying it. And, because they thought the master would get angry. And so they didn't want to lose it. And so, in the story that they were basically told that they can't go into heaven because they wasn't a good steward over what they were given. And so if you look at it from a stewardship aspect, then you disconnect emotionally from your money and thinking that it's yours, and you look at it more of, especially being somebody in financial services, I don't look at money as my own. I look at it as exactly what it is, money, and it's designed to do certain things, and based on what you need it to do, you can allocate it accordingly. So that's my approach and how I look at money. Even with my own finances, it's morphed and grown from looking at it as my money to looking at it as, how can I grow what I have using what I have? And so if you take on that mindset and that mentality, that will allow you to create additional streams of income. And so by having a job and having ongoing income coming in, you can leverage that income to begin to make more. And then lastly, having a job is necessary because eventually it can help you transition off of your job. So I recommend, if you're somebody and you know that you probably won't be at your job for a long time, then exactly what I mentioned in number 1, work towards creating a cheaper lifestyle. Try to pay down your debt as much as possible, so that way you need less money to live off of, and you don't have to put as much pressure on you to try and come up with money to take care of your bills each month after you leave your job. Outside of paying down your debt as much as possible, take advantage of your retirement plan that you have right now to make sure that you are taking advantage of the company match that your company offers, but that you're investing outside of that, whether it's just starting with a high yield savings account, so that way you have a nest egg to draw from. You can also look into, if you have a lot of money in savings like I did, You can look into storing that money away into another investment account that has low fees. So that way you can start generating some passive income through dividends through those things. And I actually, this weekend while I was away, I went to Williamsburg for the weekend. I started working on an ebook of 5 ways where you can start earning money or investing on a small budget. And so one of the options that I talk about is ETFs, or exchange traded funds. Just think of them like mutual funds. Is basically a collection of investments in one. And so you invest in this one fund and you can generate dividends that way. And so that's another way you can invest your money. But work towards trying to save as much money as possible, so that way you have money in multiple places, and so you're able to take advantage of the time that you have, because the more money that you're able to contribute to your retirement accounts now, if you just let that money sit there, even if you don't contribute, compound interest will take over, and it'll begin to basically generate interest based off of the balance that's there. And of course, the higher your balance, the more interest you can get. And so you can use your time wisely while you're still on your job to contribute to your investment account, so that way you can benefit from getting more in interest. So paying down debt, working towards, beefing up your investments, whether it's retirement or something more short-term, like a high-yield savings account, or doing your own thing by having investing in ETFs. And you can have ETFs within an IRA. So, even if you're contributing to just your account that you have with your job, eventually when you leave, you're gonna wanna roll that over into something. So if you start an IRA and through that IRA you invest in ETFs, then you can eventually convert what you have from your job into an IRA and basically put those 2 accounts together. So instead of having something from your old job and something that you were doing on your own, you can lump them together to have just one investment account. And again, that higher balance means you benefit more because compound interest takes over and you can generate more interest on that. So you can benefit from that. And also you have your, you're working to pay down debt. And as you work towards paying down debt, you ultimately free up money that you can use to take care of your normal day-to-day expenses. But ultimately, the cheaper your lifestyle, the more money you have available, especially if you're already saving and investing, then you can use that money to help with building up these additional streams of income. And so you just continue to do the work and build things up. And eventually it will translate into you having enough money to be able to leave your job if that's your choice. But you have to start somewhere, and it makes it easier to make that transition if you don't have a lot of bills to pay. Like imagine, what you're paying for right now, if you didn't have any debt payments, if you didn't have to pay any lenders, if you didn't have any to pay any creditors, if you took all of those expenses out, you're just left with, food, clothing, utilities. And how much could that possibly be on the high end? $500 a month? So if you think about it that way, okay, and I don't have long on here, but if you think about it that way, it just gives you a new perspective and a new approach to how you approach your money. So I hope that you found this helpful. Again, if you did and you're catching this on the replay, I would greatly appreciate it if you shared it. If you are watching on YouTube, you can just hit the subscribe button to make sure that you get alerts each time that a new video is posted. I am streaming live from Facebook and Instagram. And so if you want to stay connected with me, I've linked my website in the video. And if you have questions about investing, how to build wealth, or anything like that, just post them in the comments. I'll be happy to respond either via a comment or another live video. So thank you all for tuning in. And for those of you who caught the replay, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.